Hey guys, this is Jennifer, and this is the Jennifer Allwood Show, the podcast where you learn how to create a beautiful home and build a creative business. Grab a cup of coffee, find a cozy spot in the house, and let's chat. I'm excited you're here. Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. I am so excited to have you here again this week, and even more excited to introduce you to my guest, James Wedmore. So the last 10 years, James Wedmore has been teaching entrepreneurs and online business owners how to leverage the power of online video through visual storytelling. He's brilliant when it comes to all things video related. So James has also got a massive focus on the mindset of entrepreneurs. He shows clients how to work smarter, not harder, and how to get back their time. And as busy entrepreneurs, you know how valuable time is to us. James believes that launches can be fun and easy, not stressful and overwhelming. He helps his clients grow their business by helping them break through the internal mindsets that hold them back. And I am just super excited that you guys get to tap into his brilliance today. And I want to just give you a little peek behind the curtain here and let you in on a little secret. So we've been in the middle of a home remodel for about 3 months now. And the morning of my podcast with James, they were literally just banging away in our house, in our kitchen. And I thought, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to reschedule this podcast. But it's so important. There's so much gold in this podcast that I don't want to reschedule it. So the only other option I had was to interview him from my teenager's closet with a toilet sitting behind me. And I opted for the latter simply because James is so brilliant when it comes to running an online business. And I really wanted you guys to be able to get to know him and to hear some of his brilliance today. So we're glad you're here and welcome to the show. James Wedmore, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, I'm super excited because I got to meet you in person last November in the beautiful Laguna Beach. And I got to tell people, I was going to your live event, James, the Business by Design event. And I thought, well, I'm sure there's going to be a handful of people here. I mean, I'm
at
sure
least
it's going to be
5 or 6. Yeah.
Like 5 or 6. And, I'm thinking it's probably going to be at a pretty nice place because I follow you pretty religiously on Instagram. So I knew kind of the location and I'm like, this is going to be fun. I'm going to hang out with some other entrepreneurs. I had no idea that you put on that sort of an event for entrepreneurs. That was amazing. I'm so grateful for that. Tell me how that event even came to happen. Was that the first time you've done something that big?
Yeah, I mean, I had no idea either.
Did it take you by surprise too?
I mean, obviously it did. It took me by surprise. I mean, that was, excuse me, that's something we can get into where it's like, like you gotta see it in your mind first, right?
Right.
But yeah, then it's there and you're like, holy cow, like we did this. But I'd never done events up until 18 months prior than that. I did my first event for Business by Design, our course, in the summer before, and 45 people showed up for that.
Right.
And we were just like, cool, let's do more. And so we did one in January and about 55 came. And then we did one in May and we had about 65. And then we're like, okay, I think we were onto something. I like this. Like, I like the feel, like what we got going on. Let's do it. Let's do it. And so 225 people showed up for that one.
Yeah, well, let me just say this. Your team is just top notch because there was no detail left untouched. It was from someone that was there, to learn. It was just such a great environment. And I mean, you just can't go wrong with California anyway, but I just have much respect for the business and the brand that you've built. And I know what goes into an event, 1/10 of that size. So I can only imagine the amount of work that went into it. But I came away with so much knowledge and just appreciate you so much. So I think found you originally, James, by listening to your podcast, which is called Mind Your Business. And I started listening to that. I don't know how long I've been listening to that, but then suddenly you show up in my Facebook feed one day. And the more I kind of investigated what you were doing, you're kind of the go-to guy for launching, aren't you?
I don't know.
Is that a good way to put it? I think you're the go-to guy for launching. And I've been launching things for almost 4 years in my business. And I was like, oh my gosh, here's a guy with some shortcuts, and he knows how to launch things. And so I purchased your launching course, went through that, loved it. But how did you go from your background to kind of like the launching guy? Because if I understood correctly, your background was you went from broke bartender to teaching thousands and thousands of people how to use YouTube to now being like the launching king. Is that kind of the progression of your career?
That's kind of the progression. I don't know if I would call myself or see myself as the launching king. We definitely love launches. And for anybody who's selling, digital products, memberships, online courses, etc. I mean, we love launches for a reason. It's because they work. And it's frankly like there's a lot of people that have this misconception of just like, well, if I just create a really great program and put it out there, people will buy it. And that's like, that's how you can sell something on Amazon. Like if you make like iPhone covers, you can go like sell those on Amazon, and people will be looking for iPhone covers every day, and they'll buy them, and they'll search for them, and oh yeah, that's the one I want. I'm going to go buy that. But people aren't really looking around, like waking up every day like, I really need a course on this. Or, gosh, I really need to join a membership on that. And so it's just a very different psychology. And so I think even just the concept of launching is about creating an environment and an experience for people that can learn and then also, make a decision to continue learning in a paid format. So we do that. And that, like, what I was noticing in the industry is there's a lot of people with all the stuff. Like, I've got a course now, and I've got an opt-in, and I've got a website, and all these stuff that they have, but there's no results. Like, you can't cash your website in, or your views, or your likes, or your shares in at the bank. That won't pay your bills.
Right.
We saw is like, there was still that gap for so many people of like, why aren't they doing this? And what I do love about any type of launch, or I just, call it any type of sales promotion, is it puts you out there, and you see how much people hold themselves back from that and will do everything else. There is no shortage of things that I could put on anybody's to-do list to keep you busy for 6 months, like to set up your Facebook page and set up your Instagram account and get your logos and your graphics and your website and your About Me page and your blah, 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 blah.
All of which makes no money.
All of which makes no money. And at the end of the day, like if you did something like a launch, something that puts yourself out there where at the end of the day you say, hey, I've got this thing. Would you like it? Yes or no? Please make a decision by this date, that could be as simple as a launch is. One of two things is going to happen. You're either going to have results that put money in the bank, like someone bought, or 100 people bought, or 2 people bought, or you're going to have the biggest lessons and breakthroughs that will inevitably get you to the results you want. But if you're not doing that, you're just sitting there collecting to-dos and like, oh, look at all the things I accomplished and did. But what is that doing to grow your business? And I love all those stats. There's like a Forbes stat that says 8 out of 10 businesses fail in the first 18 months. Yep. And I think they fail because, and they did a whole analysis, and they said, number one is that they didn't those businesses that failed didn't look at like a profit plan. It's like, they didn't make any money. They were too busy doing everything else, and then they gave up. That to me is the only failure there is anyways, is that you choose to not keep going. And it's a lot easier to keep going when you're making progress. And the best way to experience progress is through profit. So why not start with that stuff? I'm a big fan of leading with that, of launching your program before it's even completed, let alone started. To get beta users or to get some clients in that you can work with now. Like, why wait? Because that's just so much harder. So you were the first one that I heard talking about that, about beta launching and launching without everything already done in advance. And I was like, whoa. And, I had never even heard of that being a thing. I thought I had to have like all the ducks in the row and all the things done and everything already filmed and laid out and the website and all the stuff. And so it was so great when I went through your course because it felt like it just kind of gave me permission to, kind of figure it out as I go. Like, especially as a creative person, like I'm sometimes like a feeler, like I start one direction and then kind of want to shift a little because it just doesn't feel right the other way. And so I loved that your course gave people permission
to really get started without knowing all of the things.
And look, when I start saying things like, and ironically, I mean, it's not ironic. It's just I practice what I preach. Like the very program, that's how it started. Was I sold it and I launched it before I created anything. But we got people who during those promotions and stuff getting really offended. And I always love when people get offended. They get all so hot and bothered. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so offended. And like, how dare you sell something before you've launched it and created it? I'm like, do you know what Kickstarter is? Like, have you ever heard of Kickstarter? What the heck do you think that is? It's paying in advance for something later. Well, that's different. Isn't really different? But people get all upset. And look, here's the deal. I'm on to you guys. If you're listening, I'm on to you. It's easy and it's safe to put off for later the things that are outside of your comfort zone. What's outside of your comfort zone is asking for the sale, to asking someone to invest in you, your program, your product, your whatever. Okay? Because you might get a no.
Right.
You might get rejection. Okay? So it's so much easier to say, you know what? I got to finish my thing first. I got to build it. I got to create it. I got to blah, 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 blah. And then, it's not done yet. I got to keep working on it's not perfect. Up. Perfectionism itself, by the way, is a form of fear. You're a perfectionist because you're afraid that someone's going to find out it's not good enough or you're not good enough. Yeah. And, fear, false evidence appearing real anyways. So
absolutely.
When I start telling people like, no, you're not going to spend 6 months hiding behind this busyness of work. We're going to start with the launch. We're going to start with asking for the sale. That ruffles some feathers and that gets people a little upset, but there's no other way to do it. There really isn't. Most people that I would ask, can you afford to spend a year, because that's how long it takes most people to learn everything that they think they need to learn and create everything that they think they need to create before they actually make a sale. Can you really afford to work in a job for free for 12 months without being paid? I love it. Now I could, because I was living at my parents at the time. I don't think most of your listeners are living with their parents rent.
Probably not.
Even if they are, do you really want to live with your parents for another year? Let's get out there. So anyways, I never answered your original question, Jennifer. Yes, my first product, 2007, I had this idea to launch a bartending product because I was bartending at the time. And I was like, anything I can do to get out of bartending. And what I realized is like I was doing all this really cool stuff with video at the time. That's how people were finding me. I was making YouTube videos. My sales video was video at the time. And this is like 10 years ago. So I was like revolutionary. And people started coming to me for that. And, for everyone listening, there might be people coming to you for something. Lean into that.
Yeah.
What comes easy to us is the indicator of our gifts. And I believe we all have gifts to share. And I think it was Alan Watts who said something like this, like you'd be crazy not to be making money from your gifts. And,
that's so good. Yeah.
And that's what we should be all doing. I was paraphrasing, of course. And so that was like, wow, this comes easy to me. Instead of taking it for granted, I could help others a lot. And I became known as the go-to guy in the industry for YouTube and for video.
Yeah, and I totally want to talk about that. I'm going to back up though, just to
back it up,
and I'm going to blow your mind here for just a second. We have something in common.
Oh, you were a bartender.
I was a bartender. Yeah. And you know what? I was terrible, James. Can I tell you why I was terrible?
Yes.
This is why I was terrible, because I would have the same, not the same, but a handful of the same people showing up every Friday and Saturday night, sitting at the same place at the bar, drinking the same thing. And as a bartender, it's kind of like a hairstylist. Like you really are almost a half therapist, really, essentially.
Totally.
And so, I would be talking to them and number one, I'm an introvert. So being an introvert and a bartender doesn't always mix. And number two, they would, want to be talking to me about some of their life issues and problems and things. And I would literally just look them in the face and be like, look, your problem is you're sitting here at a bar. That's your problem.
No.
And you need to go home.
Lose customers.
Yeah. So for that reason, they put me back to waiting tables eventually. But yeah, in my middle 20s, I bartended, I hustled, I had a mortgage. I actually bought my first home when I was 21 years old. And so I was scrappy and was willing to do what I needed to do on the nights and weekends to make sure I could make my mortgage. So,
well, frankly, you were probably giving them the best advice ever by telling them the problem is you're sitting here talking to me at a bar, getting drunk instead of dealing with your problems. Yeah, good advice. And ironically too, I'm a huge introvert too. Don't let my loud voice and talking fast fool anybody there. I'm a huge introvert, and that's actually why I became a bartender, because I get really awkward in social situations.
Same.
And I was like, I'm always looking for ways to hack, my situation. And I was like, oh, well, everyone goes to the bar. So if I just go behind it, first of all, there's enough barrier where close contact.
Yes.
People would just come to me. And I'm like, well, that's easy. I'll just learn how to bartend, and then I'll always be the center of attention. I want to be the awkward guy standing alone in the corner. So that's why I became.
So and there you go. Isn't it funny, the stories we all have? So I love that you love video. And I teach people in my coaching classes all the time, James, about the power of video. And my love is Facebook Live. And so I know that you love all video, I think. And your background is actually, didn't you go to like one of the top film
I did. I went to one of the top 10 film schools in the country. Yeah.
Which is amazing. And so here's one of the things, though, I love that you do with video that I think there's there's so much opportunity for people that can grasp this, is you use video to do storytelling, to do visual storytelling. And I'd love for you to talk to my audience about that, because when I signed up for your first course, I went through your video series and I was like, dang, these videos are amazing. Like the drone shots and the waves and just all the different angles that you shoot things from. And so is that the type of thing that you went to school for? Or like, tell me how did you fall in love with this whole video thing, and how are you using that in your business?
Yeah, I could talk about this all day.
I know.
So I found my mom's camcorder when I was like 11. And it was one of those big hunky ones that you like put on your shoulder.
Yeah, size of a shoebox.
Yeah, like 2 shoeboxes.
Right.
And I immediately fell in love with that thing. And I had no one to film at first. So I started doing like claymation videos where I'd put it on a little tripod and I would record a frame and like take a little piece of like Play-Doh and like move it around and then do another frame. And I would just sit there for hours. And then finally I started recruiting actors like my little sister and my friends that would come over. And that was just like my life. I mean, it was unbelievable for me.
So I think, let me interrupt you for 2 seconds. So our middle son, Easton, a couple of years ago, he was obsessed with taking Legos, James. And he would take a video of them and then he would move them like 1/16 of a centimeter. And then he'd take another picture and then he would put it all together. I'm trying to even think of the app that he would use. He actually wanted to
there's like stop motion for that. Yeah. Stop motion. I've done that before. I do that today because I love
with watching him do that. It was fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, I was doing that as a kid. I still do that. So yeah, I get it.
So how funny that things like progress to, I don't know. It's, as someone who has a teenage boy who also loves video, it's fun for me to hear your story, from a mom's perspective, because I can see like kind of hints of where you were headed all along in your story. So
yeah, and I don't have kids yet, so I can't really give advice, and I really shouldn't as a parent. But if being that I'm pretty much am still just a big kid, like the best advice I can give to any parent out there is like lean into your children's passions.
Absolutely.
Today in our business with our team, my favorite activity is called I Have an Idea. And we do roundtable ideas, like come up with random ideas. And they start with the creativity and then I'm able to direct that to how it's going to generate revenue and growth in the business. And that's the thing, is that you can do that as a parent. I remember more in like the olden days, I think people are much more open-minded today. But in the olden days, it was like, no, you're going to be a doctor or a lawyer because that's how you make money and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you can make money with anything today. Find that passion, master it. And there's a way to make money there. And like, what if that became part of what you facilitate with your child? Is like, okay, great. So how can you be the best in the world? How can you market this? How could you build a business around this? How could you reach more people? How could you scale, automate, and letting them almost just like hone that in, instead of saying, nope, you got to find a career path.
Right.
But anyway, so I went to college for film school, and I quit. Well, let's see. I went into film school, but then what I chose within the film school was how to do commercials. So I don't know why I just chose that. I was like, that'll be really fun to like niche down. And instead of going into Hollywood, it's more about like producing commercials. So I learned a lot about copywriting and marketing and branding and all that stuff. But what I quickly realized, which I just had not, I mean, I'd done businesses like actually growing up, and that's a whole nother story, like starting my own businesses and stuff. I was selling stuff on eBay since I was like 14, is that I didn't want to work for all these other people where my creativity was stifled and everything was like a no. You know, like no to this, no to that, no to that, do it our way. Here's the box, fit in the box. You ever look at a movie after the credits start rolling? You ever see how many names come up that it takes just to make a single movie? Mm-hmm. I didn't want to be a line like 70 lines down on a movie. I wanted it to be me. So I didn't know what that looked like, but it's looking back, it's such a beautiful, like, you know, unfolding of like, well, that's what I get to do today is like, I gotta make my own stuff the way I want to do it. And I'm just very stubborn that way. So yeah, I learned all that in college, and, you know, it was a passion, and now we lead with it. Now in business, it's about, you know, so many people are asking me, oh, how do I make videos like you? And I'm like, do you really want to make videos like me? Because I love every second of it. And we just spent last week 5 days of filming, and I'm like pinching myself that I get to get paid today as an adult, kind of an adult, paid today to just spend all day making videos. I mean, I couldn't ask any other better way. So I love that. I enjoy that. And that doesn't mean, oh, everyone go out and make videos, because I know people that hate it. It's a craft. It's a creative process, time consuming, but like, you know, something is, you lose time, you lose a sense of time when you're doing something you love. So to me, it's not time consuming. It's me just doing my thing in the moment and loving every second of it.
Yeah. And it's obvious how much you love it. And yeah, I would have not the first idea, you know, how to make or create the type of videos you do. And that's why we hire people when we're not skilled in certain areas. So I love my videographer here in Kansas City. He does an amazing job. And I love watching him like operate in his giftings. And that way I can just stay in my own lane and operate in my giftings. And he puts together something brilliant and lovely, and that's how we do it. Do you also have a love of like live video, like live streaming? Is that something that you enjoy at all, like Facebook Live? I know you like Instagram stories. That's kind of where you hang out, right?
I like Instagram stories because it's almost the blend of the two in a sense.
It's also low commitment. It's 15 seconds.
It's a low commitment. It's a low commitment, but I think there's so much opportunity there. I wouldn't say I love Facebook Lives. I would highly recommend them, but for me personally, I don't get excited about it. I do. There's less creativity there, you know? So
yes,
I think it's one of the most effective ways that we can be, connecting and engaging with our audiences. Absolutely. Hands down, without a doubt, but there's no creativity there for me. And so,
as far as the visual storytelling,
it's just kind of having a conversation. Now, but again, for marketing, like connecting and being real with your audience, like it's so essential. It's so needed. But I would never. So that's why it's like, for me, it's not like a replacement. It's like a layered on top. Like I will produce a video and then like we'll do a Facebook Live talking about the things that I went over in the video. You know, and that's the thing is like everyone's always looking to everybody else, like, she's successful because she does this, or he's successful because he do that. And like, no, they're successful because they know what their values are. They know what looking aligned looks like for them, where their strengths are, their superpowers, their zone of genius, and they're doing that. And you're not successful because you're following them instead of following what works for you.
That is gold. I hope somebody tweets that, James.
Well, you know, do what you want with it, but it's true. And like, as soon as you, like, everyone wants a following, but no one's willing to lead, you know, like everyone's copying everybody else and then wondering why it's not working. Now, how do I gain a following? Go lead somebody. And you can't really lead everyone when you're, you know, doubting yourself and second guessing what's right for you and just trying to do what other people are doing because it works for them. That's a broken model.
I love that so much. I want to talk next about something that I picked up on, not only in hearing you talk about it on your podcast, but watching you kind of live it out on Instagram stories. And it's something that I have a little bit of envy going on. I'll be real honest with you, James, but it's your commitment to play.
Oh, yeah.
And I love it so much because I've watched you long enough and listened to you long enough that I know that you have worked really hard to build a business that fits into your life, and that you and Chelsea have, this multi-7-figure business that allows you to play a ton. And you have a commitment to, if I understand you correctly, going into the ocean every single day, getting wet every single day because you live in paradise. And I love that. So will you kind of talk about, like, how did you has that always just been something super important to you? Were you always able to make time for play, maybe even when you didn't have the same resources that you have today? Because as somebody that probably doesn't play enough, like, it just looks like your life is so much fun.
Okay. So that's really what it is one of our core values too, is fun, is having fun. And so it's the first thing I want to say is I'm a recovering workaholic. Even when I was working myself like super hard and super long hours, that's still something I really much enjoyed. I'm not much of a mature adult. Like, I'm very immature in so many ways. I love goofing off and I don't take things too seriously. And I'm just laughing or joking around. Part of every day, tonight I get to babysit my 2-year-old nephew, and it's I can't wait. And I play with him almost every day. And no one cares about this, but I'll tell it anyways, is that he goes to daycare during the day and he hates it. He hates going. And so the way that my sister, his mom, gets him to go is to bribe him and say, I'll let you play with James after. And then he goes, okay.
That's awesome.
And so she uses me, right? And I tell the rest of the family, I said, I'm going to guess that the reason that he calls me his best friend at 2 and wants to play with me all day is because I know how to play. And I think as adults, we've forgotten. And I see how other people, like neighbors, like my parents, his grandparents, and even his parents, interact with them. It's almost this condescending kind of tone, oh, that's not, you're playing with your truck, that's nice. And I get down on his level and I'm like, oh, what is the truck doing? Oh, this is great. Okay, here, I'll be the ambulance. And I never ever wanted, it was like that Polar Express book where as they got older, they lost the ability to go see Santa Claus. I never wanted to lose that in my life. And you guys might be like, what the heck does this have to do with business and marketing? It doesn't have anything to do with it. It's just that that's who I am. That's what's true and real for me. And I never wanted to compromise that to be successful in business. I said, what does that look like in my life and in my business? I built a business around my life, not the other way around, not sacrificing my life in order to do that. And that's what a lot of people are doing. And you can see it when they overextend and overcommit, and then they're guilty and they're putting their life, their health, their sanity, their emotional health at risk just to make an extra buck. And it's nope, I'm clear where my values are, where my boundaries are, what's important to me. And I think everybody should. But here's the added piece I'm going to throw on top of this. And this is the most important part. Some people start to, for the other recovering workaholics out there, they start to get guilty when they take time off. It starts to feel uncomfortable to them when they take time off. And there's a huge conversation we can have here. The first of all is that you're stuck in an illusion that you think, first of all, that money comes from your effort. This is not a job. So you're not paid hourly in your job. I mean, maybe you have a salary for yourself, but the business isn't generating revenue because you're working an hourly wage in your business. That's employee mindset. Entrepreneur mindset is completely opposite of that. Okay.
I love that.
So that's the first thing. The other thing is that there is a sense for most people, if you're feeling guilty when you take time off, there's a sense of certainty that you're getting from working. That there's this, working, there's, even if it's frustrating and tough and physically exhausting, you're getting something out of it. It gives you some sense of certainty. Now, and that might be hard for for people to admit, but why else would you feel uncomfortable and guilty when you stop working? Okay. But here's the kicker. And this is where it's really going to suck for most people to hear this, is that there is no such thing as certainty. That certainty even in itself is an illusion. And you can all try that on with the logical test that anything can happen at any time. Tomorrow, the economy could collapse and we're all out of business.
Right.
We could go into a war tomorrow. We could, the dollar could drop tomorrow to nothing. Like, there is no certainty no matter what. And so we're chasing this illusion of certainty, and we believe that if we just work harder and longer and keep going, that will guarantee or make the results that we want certain, and it won't. So there's a huge piece there, but money does not come from our effort. And I know this for a fact because I'm working less today and making far more.
And making more, yeah.
The hardest I was working was actually when I was making the leaves. And that's because when you're so busy doing all the little busy stuff, it's taking you away from the actual 5% of activities. It's only 5% of activities that will generate 95% of the results and the revenue that you want in your business. Now, if I haven't convinced you guys enough to take seriously in your life, here's the added piece. Here's the last piece, which to me, whenever I started to feel guilty, this is what really dissolved any guilt for me, is that the rest is required. The play is required because that's where the new ideas, the inspiration, and the clarity come from. When you're so busy with your head down, hustling all the time because someone yelled into a camera and said, you got to hustle and work until your eyeballs bleed or else you'll never be successful. When you're doing all of that hustle nonsense, where is the clarity? Where is the vision? Where is you looking out into the new idea, the new opportunity? You got your head down. You can't look out to the horizon and see what's next and what's possible. And that's what most people are doing. So I take that time off. That's where I get my most inspired ideas. That's where I recharge my creative energy. And that is required. I mean, they've proven this with how the effects that nature even has on our creativity and our energy levels. And I mean, all of that. But what we have to do is understand that we're not an employee in our business, even though we're treating ourselves that. But so much of our value and goodwill comes from our creativity, comes from us. And what are we doing to replenish that so we have more? Or are you running on empty? You're so tapped. You're so on that, 1%, like our iPhones are half the day, that you've got nothing else to give. And then you're wondering, why aren't I making any more money? You're on empty. So for me, it's a requirement. I mean, as soon as this interview is done, I'm out to go surfing.
Am I I'm your last thing of the day on a Friday even? Well, thank you for making time for this. But no, I love what you're saying because the majority of my audience, James, the majority of them are female and the majority of them are creatives. And so they're makers, they're DIYers, they're painters, they're artists. And so when people come to me and they feel stuck, I will usually ask them, when is the last time you took some time off? When is the last time you got out of town? I have found for me that one of the ways to get me back to center in terms of creativity or to get me back to feeling creative at all is to get me away from my everyday environment. Even if that's just an hour up the road and, my husband and I stay somewhere for a weekend or something, just getting me out of my normal day-to-day routine helps me so much with my creativity. So I love that you're committed to play. And every time you're putting stuff on your Instagram account, it's very convicting. I'm like, dang it, I need to do better at this. So thank you for continuing just to share that part of your life, which does, I know it has to affect your business. I bet your team also has some similar values when it comes to play. Am I right?
They have to, because then I feel completely incongruent. And so we just had a 2-day event for our coaching group. Tuesday and Wednesday. And then, so Thursday, we all took a day off and we took them to our local spa and they had they all got a massage and we laid out by the pool for hours. And they weren't allowed to work that day. And,
that's awesome.
Part of what I want is, I want them to say that they have the best job ever. And that's a piece that I think people might be interpreting it as like, oh, that's easy for you to say, you take all this time off, blah, 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 James. Like, you just hire people to do it all for you. And it's like, no, we're a team. So we all do work, and then we all take time off.
All do play.
Yeah, we all play. And there's actually more times where I have to tell them to stop working. And there's been studies done. There's a great book called Scrum, The Art of Doing Twice the Work in Half the Time by Jeff Sutherland. And he talks about a study, and there's been a few different studies, but they're all the same theme, that after about 36 hours of work in a given week, productivity suffers, mistakes increase, like sloppiness occurs, like all that type of stuff anyway. So I don't want, the value my team has to me is not in how many hours they log, but in the results that they produce. And if someone can produce the same result in 5 hours, it takes someone else 50 hours. Why would I support and lift up and encourage the 50-hour time consumer versus the person who do it in just a few? The result is the result. So I encourage them to work less because I don't want them making mistakes. And, yeah.
Do you know how many people are listening to this right now who are probably or possibly employees for somebody else, and they're like jotting down notes like to turn into their boss?
Yeah.
I love it. Well, the last thing I want to chat with you about before you head to the beach is I was so honored that you did a contribution to my Creators Roadmap bonus last week, which is called A Master Plan to 7 Figures. And I asked a lot of entrepreneurs, like, the things that they did that were the biggest needle movers in terms of getting their business from 5 to 6 figures or 6 to 7 figures. And I loved your response, James, because I read it and I'm like, dang, that is straight to the point. And that is pure gold right there. And so I'd love to read for our listeners and just kind of have you expand just a little bit on each point if we could. But I asked you the 3 things that you thought were the biggest keys to taking a business from 6 figures to 7. And the first thing that you said was, let go of the fear of being judged. And spoiler alert, they're already judging you. That is so good. So tell me about that and why that's so important to change literally the dollar amount, the revenue that your business is bringing in.
So you describe your audience as being creatives, and
Absolutely.
I'm creative. So when we're highly creative and we're getting paid for our creativity, it really becomes this like sense of either attachment or identification to our work.
Absolutely.
Right? And we attach a meaning to how people interact with our work. If no one buys, therefore it's not good enough, therefore I'm good enough. And so we're doing that subconsciously, sometimes consciously, mostly subconsciously, all day long. And so some people are so afraid to even see if what they think would become a fact for them, I'm not good enough, right? Like if I put it out and no one buys, that means I'm not good enough. Well, if that's what they've created, if that's the meaning, the interpretation, and this kind of like this game they've set up, isn't it so much easier to just not put anything out? Then you don't need to have any indicators that you're not good enough. Oh, problem solved. People are doing this on a subconscious level all the time, day long. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So we're afraid that whatever they say about us or whatever actions they take about us or don't take, whether they buy or not, or refund or complain or leave a review or blah, 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 blah. We think somehow, somewhere along the line, we made up our minds that has something to do with us. Like as a human being, as our worth on the planet. I mean, if you all have check your pulse real quick, but if your heart's still beating, like you do have just as much value and worth as any other living human being. Go look at 2 babies and tell me if one has more value or worth on the planet than the other. No, right? But all of a sudden, when it comes to us, that's different, right? What is me? No. If they don't buy from me, like I'm no good, blah, blah, blah. Look, we're all human. This is part of the human condition we all deal with. So we're avoiding, so much of our actions are not to put ourselves out there, but to avoid the judgment that comes with putting ourselves out there. And when we do that, that's where we limit ourselves. That's where we don't take those actions that I said are those 5% of activities that are outside your comfort zone that really, put skin in the game. Because we're afraid of being judged. And we're afraid of what that could mean about who we are as a human when we are judged. And yes, as I said in the little thing I sent you, they're already judging you.
Yes.
They already are. You think, just look around. How many of you have judged me since hearing my voice on this podcast? You've made an assessment or an opinion. Oh, I like the guy. Oh, he's kind of a jerk. Oh, he talks too fast. He talks too slow. This doesn't make sense. He's a blah, blah, blah. You're already doing it. And you're doing it about Jennifer. Now, hopefully you've said only amazing judgments and opinions about Jennifer. But either way, there's still judgments and opinions. And I'm sure there is someone on this planet, very highly unlikely, but there's probably one or two people that are like, Jennifer's not really my cup of tea.
Not really my cup of anything. Yep.
Is she going to stop impacting people and cancel the podcast, give up the business, go get a job that she's miserable at because she's got two people that are like, I've judged Jennifer and I don't like her? No, but that's what we're doing. That's what everyone else is doing. And that's the big difference. So everyone's already judging you. They already are. You're being judged for not putting your stuff out there. You know, your family or relatives like, oh, they keep talking about this idea, but they're not doing it. They won't finally pull the trigger. They're judging you for that. So you're being judged whether you do or you don't. There's no way out of it.
So you might as well do.
So you might as well do it. You might as well do what you love, and you might as well serve the people that want your stuff, that are there for your stuff, that you were meant to serve. Period.
Love it so much. Love it so much. Your second point was let go of the fear of spending money. You can't build a 7-figure business with a broke attitude. Boom. Yeah. Mic drop.
Yeah. That's a big one because a lot of people are going to look at their current circumstances and say, well, that's easy for you to say, but there's no money in the bank account. And so they're using their existing reality, but your existing reality of whatever's in the bank account is, and we can all agree to this, is the sum result of how you've been thinking, operating, and acting in the past. So if we continue to think and act and operate and behave and make decisions the same way we have in the past, guess what? We repeat our circumstances. You stay stuck. This is why people have that experience of staying stuck, because you're doing the same things. You're thinking the same way. You're operating the same way you've been operating. And so if we want to grow, we think, and I don't know where we learn this, but we think growing means just doing more. Well, let me just do more of the same. Let me just work longer, harder, faster, stronger. And that's just more of the same mindset and ways of being and acting that we've been doing. So you're just going to repeat more of the same circumstances. And so what really made the shift for me is I had to start operating like a 7-figure business owner before I was a 7-figure business owner.
Yes, I love that.
Here's a great example. When I built my membership site, first I noticed I was trying to build it using what I call the duct tape solution approach, where I was like, let me find all the cheapest or free tools that I need, and I'll try really hard to kind of like duct tape them together, and they barely worked, and it didn't offer all the functions I want, and it's just a crappy experience for my customers. And it was just, I spent so much more time versus like, wait a second, I could spend a few extra $100 and I go from like the Pinto to the Rolls Royce of membership tools. Like, Isn't that what a 7-figure business owner would do? Of course, that's what they would do. And the more we can just like let go of those fears of spending money, because that's what it takes, the easier it's going to be to grow. And that's partly because what's underneath that is we're still stuck with this fixed attachment relationship to money.
Yeah.
We live in a world where we experience time as linearly. Like we've been on this call for whatever it's been, like 40 minutes.
Right.
And so like time, we have this linear experience of time. We can't get that back. Sorry guys, for you listening, if you didn't like this call, you can't get that time back. But we tend to approach money the same way. Right? Like that you can't get money back, or if you've still attached money to effort, you're definitely screwed because you think the only way you can make more money is if you have more time. Not true. not as an entrepreneur. And so money is our ultimate resource. Money is a thing that we can replenish, that there is an infinite, completely abundant amount of, yet that's the thing that we are holding on to with a death grip. And instead we're throwing around our time like we've got millions of hours at our disposal. It's freaking backwards. That's the employee mindset, not the entrepreneur mindset. And you cannot get to the seven-figure level, 7 figures in the bank account with an employee mindset, period.
Love that so much. Totally love that. And this is why you're obsessed with mindset. I love it. And I say obsessed in a nice way, not like a creepy way.
In the most healthy way possible.
In the most honorable way possible. And the last tip that you gave, which I just thought was so good as well, is you said, let go of the wheel. Great businesses are built with great teams, and a team can't ever be great until you let go of the wheel and let them drive. Yeah.
And be okay with them crashing.
Oh, that's good.
You're not really giving them the wheel. Like if we literally use this analogy, I guess it wouldn't be literal if it's metaphorical. If we're using this as a metaphor, and you can imagine you teaching your son or daughter how to drive, and they're in the driver's seat and you're in the passenger seat, and every time they're about to make the mistake, you're there to grab the wheel from the, no. You know, grab the wheel. That's great because you're preventing both of you from like getting into a serious car accident, but you can't be there for the rest of their lives every time they get in the car. So they're going to have to learn at some point. And I got that with my team, that the more I was grabbing the wheel again, the more I was conditioning them and training them. Oh, I don't really need to worry about the pitfalls or the walls or the other cars or the potholes, because if we get close, James is just going to take over and take us the rest of the way anyway.
That's so good. And I absolutely agree with you. Part of, I think, one of the secrets to success in any business is just A, knowing the right people to add to the team. B, not being afraid of adding the wrong people, and you can always adjust, but then letting them actually do what they're gifted at and what they're created to do, and the things that they're really skilled at. And I know when you can do that, well, your team members, they can feel it, and they can feel that you have that trust in them, and then everything just works so much more smoothly. And so I love how well you take care of your team. It's obvious from your Instagram stories and your social media that you just take a really good care of them. And I would love to actually interview them. I'm sure they'd have great things to say. So
they better.
So yeah, absolutely. So tell us real quick, when is Business by Design? When is that opening back up?
Oh yeah, we'll be opening that up in June. The actual the date is June 14th, 2018. I'm really excited about that because we're doing something that I might as well spill the beans. I think
spill the beans
will
here.
Be the first ones to actually know about this.
Oh, I'm so honored. Thank you.
Most of us at least have experienced, and I don't know, Jennifer, if you do like video series or launches.
Yes.
Okay. So
I'm launching next week. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. So do you normally do three videos?
I do 3 videos with a 4 sales video. Yep. Mm-hmm. So, you got something that you're brewing.
So we've got something a little different, which I'm really excited about because, just to bring it full circle, you talked about video and how we like to do video. So, because that's my strong suit, like that's my zone of genius, why not just create something completely new and innovative? And the first thing I noticed, is that, and you're probably going to be sitting there going, oh, we should have thought of this. Too late. Okay. So is that with these video series that are released, which can be extremely powerful to your audience, like it's so beneficial, is that today people are ingrained with they're different today than they were even just a few years ago. People are in this like instant gratification, now need it community or mindset. So when we say, hey, here's, one video and in a week or so, we're going to release another video, people are so impatient. They're like, what? I got to wait? Like, when was the last time you actually followed a TV show on television? Like, oh, it's Wednesday at 7, got to go watch. We're all used to like the whole Netflix thing now.
Yeah. You sit down and you binge.
We sit down and we binge. So that's exactly what we've done. We've created like a Netflix season. It's an 8-part mini series that they're going to get access to all at once. 8 episodes that they can binge through. Because it's video, we've had a lot of fun with like making it kind of like an actual season of a TV show. But the entire 8-part series is going to really show them how to step into the digital CEO role of actually running their business. So,
I love it.
How to put like all that stuff from even a team, even if it's one person, to better systems, better marketing in place. And we're super excited about it.
Well, that's awesome. I'm smiling like ear to ear because your videos are just so good. And it is like grab a bag of popcorn, sit down and watch these things. So I love it. So if people wanted to check out your video series, where do they need to go? Let's tell them how they can find you, how they can find your program, and where they can find you on social.
Yeah. Oh man. Well, thank you so much, Jennifer. It's so kind of you. So it's called Business by Design. The website's businessbydesigntraining.net. I know it's a pretty long URL, but businessbydesigntraining.net. Instagram, Jennifer follows all my stories on that. So kind of thank you. So it's just my name, James Wedmore. And really, if anything I've said resonates with you, I'm going to just really plug a huge plug for my podcast. And just
absolutely.
I'm just enjoying doing it and having these longer conversations. As you said, I'm obsessed with mindset. I realize someone can learn everything there is to learn about marketing and about business and still not have a single result in their life. And when I noticed that for myself and I noticed that in others, I kept asking why. And that's the missing ingredient for me. That's the missing ingredient for so many others is we look at all the tools, right? Just like a contractor or an architect can look at all the tools at his disposal or her disposal, the hammer, the nails, the saw. And we can look at the funnel, the sales page, the video, look at all these tools. But why is no one looking at the person that is yielding or wielding those tools? Why are we not looking at the architect that is creating, designing, and deciding and taking action? Why aren't we looking at who that person is? And I think that's where it all begins. And I think that's where it all ends. And so many people are pointing out there to all the other stuff and blaming that versus shining the light on ourselves, pointing the mirror back on us and saying, what is it that I can be doing or who is it that I can be being to see the opportunities, to be committed, to take the actions necessary, to have the courage to do the things that are scaring the crap out of me, and to be responsible for all areas of my life and my business. And so that's really the conversation I love having with people today.
Awesome. And your podcast again is called
Mind Your Business. I should probably do that. Yes.
I'm plugging you.
I love it. I appreciate it. Mind Your Business podcast. You can just type in Mind Your Business on iTunes and you'll find us in there.
All right, James, thank you so much for being here and taking time out of your schedule. And I'm just honored that you would come speak to my listeners. And I will make sure and put in the show notes where they can find you online. And I hope you have an awesome time out at the beach right now.
Thanks, Jennifer. And thanks you guys for listening.
All right, take care.
All right, friends, I hope you enjoyed that interview with James Wedmore. Be sure to go over to the show notes at jenniferallwood.com to be able to find James on social media. And I just want to thank you again for being here and listening. And I wanted to actually give a shout out to one of my podcast listeners, to Stacy at Wilshire Collections. I was reading through the reviews over on iTunes, and Stacy says, Jennifer Allwood is my business coach. Yes, I am, girlfriend. And I love following everything she does. Her podcasts are perfect for the car or when I'm in the shop working. I always find something encouraging that speaks right to me. I highly recommend for entrepreneurs of all kinds. And so I just wanted to say thank you, Stacy. I appreciate your business, the Wilshire Collection, so much. And I appreciate your review. And for the rest of you who are listening, if you get a chance to go over to iTunes and leave us a review, that would be amazing. The reviews they matter. The bottom line is they matter. And we read them, I see them, and I just thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to write a review, to share this podcast with another business owner that may possibly need it. And I just appreciate you tuning in every week. So until next week, I hope you're going to stay creative. Bye-bye.